Nancy?
(304-639-7754).
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it?
Lisa? Okay, good. Being early is never a problem for us.
662-2000, 614-362-2000.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster. With a look at your local weather forecast for your start to the work week, mostly sunny skies, a high near 69. Overnight low of 40 degrees. Under mostly clear skies, you'll see plenty of sunshine mixing in with just a few clouds for your Tuesday, with highs in the upper 60s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
News, information, conversation, controversy, and fun. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
Oh, it's looking nice outside. Sun is up. It's going to be a great day today. Going to get close to 70. Maybe not quite there, but heading up close to it. We'll look for maybe a high of around 68, according to Zach, over the Big 7. Currently, 44 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. 44 here at my home studios in Elm Grove. 44 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling, in the heart of the Ohio Valley. WVU rallied from behind yesterday, but fell just short of moving on to the Sweet 16. OSU knocked out in their surprise loss to Oral Roberts in the first round. Oral Roberts moved ahead to the Sweet 16 yesterday. We're going to continue to talk about March Madness coming up a little bit later on. 15 states around this country are now seeing an increase in COVID, just as we think we're beginning to battle it back, and I'm feeling ready to go out. I got my vaccine. I'm thinking how good it's going to be to get out into the good weather and enjoy life. And then if we don't keep on following precautions, trouble is going to come. 15 states, including West Virginia, are now seeing increases in COVID. And indeed, in West Virginia, a delegate has contracted COVID. How's that going to affect the remaining days of the session? Brad McElhenney coming in a little bit later on to help us kind of look at what it's going to do to the session. 60-day session. We're beginning on day number 40 today. And the war of words over Wheeling's memorandum of understanding with Bluefield State College continues. The mayor and top officials have fired back at the local college and university presidents. I reached out this weekend to those who had not heard from yet, including Councilman Ben Seidler, who's going to be with us a little bit later on this morning, and also Rosemary Ketchum, who sent me some thoughts, and I'll share those with you in a bit as well. So we've got a lot to do today. But first of all, let me welcome to the show West Virginia delegate from Marshall County, 4th District delegate. You're 4th District, right, Lisa?
I am, correct.
I lose these numbers. I lose track of numbers. Lisa Zukoff is here with us. First of all, you okay? No signs of COVID or anything, right?
No signs of COVID, Howard. I've been vaccinated, and I wear my mask when I'm not at home. So, no COVID here.
What are you hearing about what could, if anything, about what might happen as a result of Brandon Steele coming down with COVID?
Well, just that they're going to start testing today, and that, they're quarantining folks who have been around him for any length of time. I don't know. I haven't heard of anybody in our caucus being quarantined or being contacted. So we were all chatting yesterday about it, but we don't know what's going to happen. They're going to monitor it. They're going to test people. Honestly, I think anybody who was in his committee or that works in his staff should probably be, and that sits around him in the House that hasn't been vaccinated should probably be tested, just for safety precautions.
He acknowledges he was among those who chose not to get vaccinated. If I may ask this, and maybe you don't pay that much attention, has he been has he been good about following protocol and mask wearing or not? I know there are some who have not. Marty Gerhardt didn't want to.
Marty Gerhardt, and there's a few others that wear masks, so you can breathe right through them. But Brandon, I think, typically has, although he takes his mask off, as do many of us, although I won't be any longer, if we're speaking, because sometimes when the mask is, it muffles the sound and people have a difficult time hearing. Brandon's a pretty big guy with a pretty big voice, so he takes his off, and he speaks quite frequently because he's the chair of Government Organization Committee, which is a major committee in the House. So he's introducing bills, he's answering questions. As a matter of fact, Friday, the monuments bill that was on that we debated for 2 hours was from his committee. So he gave the closing argument for that. So he does speak frequently.
We'll talk with Brad McElhaney next hour a little bit more about what he's found out about how this could affect ongoing the session. I do see a Metro News story this morning saying that Delegate Joshua Higginbotham, who sits in front of Steele, and Senator Patrick Martin, Republican from Lewis County, said he spent time with Steele at the tail end of last week. They both have chosen to quarantine themselves, but I just don't know how the rest of it's going to play out. So we'll find out.
I'm not sure either.
And you've been vaccinated.
I have been. Ironically, Brandon is an anti-vaxxer. He actually made a statement on the House floor when we were voting on the adding additional carcinogens into the water, the DEP vote, happened a couple weeks ago. He reminded all of us that if we voted against this bill, that when they started talking, these kind of poisons get put into our vaccines. So he stood up and made that comment on the floor.
I saw that, and I went back and looked at it again this weekend, and I got to tell you, I can't quite figure out what he was trying to say, but it was, I thought a little bizarre.
I did too, but that's just like recent history, so I thought I would mention it. Yeah.
You mentioned the monument bill, and you talked about the debate over the monument bill. There really wasn't actually a lot of debate, was there? I mean, there was a lot of opposition.
Yeah,
but not a lot of debate because the Republicans who supported didn't have much to say.
They didn't. As they don't have much to say at all, they let us talk basically. So when there's an issue, a few of them will make a few statements, but so it's been a really weird year, Howard, to say the least. And quite frankly, some of the things that happened last week were really upsetting to me, and I don't get upset easily. So, but that monuments bill was one of them, and Another local delegate shared the voting list, which she has every right to do. And I took some flack at home over the weekend because I didn't support our history, which couldn't be further from the truth. But like many bills I don't support our history.
Wait a minute.
Well,
our history is we rejected the Confederacy. That's our history.
I understand. My big issue, you're absolutely right, and there were some great points made to that. I honestly think, Howard, that we are seeing some really bills right now in the West Virginia legislature that have nothing to do with West Virginia. They're about national issues, keeping them front and center to keep the conservative base riled up. And I say that, and I put that on my Facebook page this morning. Alan Adams had a editorial in the Wheeling paper this morning talking about bills with problems looking for solutions, looking for a problem, and that's what we're seeing right now. I personally voted against that bill because I think that local entities, if we have a problem in Marshall or Ohio County with something that's bothering us, that's a monument, then we don't have many, I don't know of, and maybe I'm just being ignorant, I don't know of any Civil War statues in the 4th District, and maybe I've missed one. Honestly, I know that there's a monument on the corner in Marshall County of a gentleman on a horse. I'm not sure who it is. I know we have beautiful war memorials on in our county fairgrounds, and we have a few other. We have a family's statue in the corner of St. Francis Church lot across the street from the church. But I don't really know of a lot, and maybe that's something I need to look into. But I never heard from one constituent about the bill, not one.
That's my question. Did anybody write to you, email you, call you, corral you when you're home on the weekend and say, I'm tired of this?
No, and Howard, I take that very seriously. I really do. If there's really contentious issues, I'll put it out there. Let me know how you feel. I just posted one last week about the teachers carrying guns. No presupposed supposition on my part. Just let me know how you feel about this bill. I want to know how my constituents feel about it, especially teachers and parents who are right now affected. And I got some really good feedback, pros and cons, and things I hadn't thought about, which is what's supposed to happen when we talk about issues, right? That we can, see another person's side, that we can maybe change our mind. But I went to it with no preconceived notions about what my constituents think. I'm a Second Amendment proponent. I have a concealed carry permit. I believe, I think it's a natural right in West Virginia. We have a huge hunting tradition. So I support the Second Amendment. I think we're pushing it sometimes. But I think that should be up to the teachers if they want to carry or not, so we'll see, and how the school boards feel about it locally. But it's the same way with the monuments. If we have an issue, hold on. We'll
get back to monuments again in a second. Let me just stop right where you hit something there. You said how school boards feel about it locally. One of the other trends that's coming out of this session of the legislature is to try to deny as much local authority to school boards, cities, municipalities, and other folks as possible. The current GOP leadership wants to consolidate as much power as they can into themselves in the state. That's the trend certainly that I see.
And when I first got there 3 years ago, it was just the opposite. It was all about local control. So I've been kind of astonished, frankly. In West Virginia, we're pretty good at taking care of our own problems in our own communities. And that should be for us to decide, right? In West Virginia, we don't like anybody to tell us what to do. And let's be honest, Howard. You want to get somebody's back up in West Virginia, you tell them they have to do something.
Right.
It's just who we are. It's who we are as a people, and I do it too. So, it's just who we are. But I think that again, it was a solution to a problem that we don't have. And we wasted hours in committee, hours on the floor, talking about something that really isn't a major issue. And there are bills coming out of the House this week that are exactly like that. While we have really valid issues that bills have been put forth to address that we can't get through a committee. My friend Sean Fluharty, who represents Wheeling, is the only Democrat in the House of Delegates in West Virginia who has gotten a bill through the House side, completely through the House side, as a Democrat major sponsorship. And trust me, all of the bills I put forth are bipartisan support. I refuse that I'm on as a co-sponsor, but my major bills are bipartisan bills. So I really try to do that. I think it's important for us to work together to come to some type of solution. And if you do that, then you work the issues out when you're drafting the bill. That's what happens. But we're not seeing leadership run any bills, any of our bills. Sean's the only one, that has got one passed. And it was an originating bill out of judiciary. So he didn't really, put the bill forth. It was something that worked through the committee. But I find that very sad. And I know that we have a supermajority, and I live with that fact every day, trust me. But I think sometimes they forget that the ones of us who are there that have another party behind our name, a Democrat behind our name, we got elected to serve our people too.
But this Republican supermajority has been engaging in simply the raw use of power, and they're doing things. I've said this quite a few times on the show. They're doing things because they can. Why are you doing this?
Exactly.
Because I can. Because I can.
Exactly. And frankly, it's been really disappointing to me when we had the monuments discussion. And you're right. It was the majority of the folks that spoke were Democrats. We did have a few Republicans, Brandon Steele being the major proponent. But I will tell you, the speaker, anytime we've had major debates where it's Democrats, he left the podium and put the speaker pro tem up there to acknowledge people and hear the debate. He wasn't even in the room. About half of the Republicans got up, I have pictures, got up and walked out. Maybe they were still in the back of the session or at the top walking around talking to their friends. They didn't even listen. It's disgusting.
Well, Lisa, I saw a post you put on Facebook this week. You said this was one of the most frustrating weeks you've ever had in the legislature.
Yes. It was. For those very reasons. Because I know that the people in my district and the people of West Virginia, we have major issues to take care of, Howard. I'm on the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. We haven't even met twice, and those committees only meet once a week. We haven't met 2 weeks, we haven't met, and there are bills out there that deal with small business issues, especially after COVID, that could help small businesses in West Virginia, and the committee doesn't even meet. I'm frustrated. I am really frustrated, and quite frankly, I'm really disgusted at the mean-spiritedness with which this legislature has been acting. Supermajority.
But there really is no recourse at the moment. The next recourse comes at the ballot box, I think.
Exactly. And, I may be wrong, but, I think this was, sometimes it's really easy to get confused with think about the issues that are going on a national basis because that's what we hear in the news most. But these issues that the legislature takes up are where we're at home. It affects our municipalities. It affects our everyday life. It affects our kids with the bills that are passed for education. We had another bill that came through. On the Senate side, it's going to give tax breaks to people that have kids in private school. Well, I know that one of my children was in public school. She had issues, and I paid for tutoring out of pocket. But she went to public school. As a public school parent, if I have to want to pay to help get my child extra help, I don't get a tax write-off for that. Only the private school people do. There's just not much equity in the West Virginia legislature right now.
Well, on the issue of education, I don't think it's far from reality for me to say that Republican supermajority leadership has made this, and I quote Dale Lee on this has really been a session of retribution against the public schools. It really has been. It's been an attack on the public school system. It has been.
I will give Speaker Hanshaw some credit here. He did vote against the ESA's Hope Scholarship bill. He quietly voted against that bill when it came up in the House. And then when it came back from the Senate and it was passed through. So, he voted against that bill. But as I said on the floor, 12 counties in West Virginia don't have private schools. 12. Most of the charter schools in America, 10% of them are in rural areas of the states where they are allowed. And 50% 50% of our kids in West Virginia go to rural schools. Most of the little Johnnies and Sallies out there in West Virginia, at least half of them are never going to have that opportunity for a constitutionally mandated free school system. It's just wrong, Howard, and I'll believe that forever.
And the idea of the vouchers, the ESAs, the Hope Scholarship, whatever words they use, and the idea of having more charter schools, school choice, those phrases all sound good. But the reality is that you're not going to see the students who maybe they still aren't going to be able to get into the private schools, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They're still, with all the vouchers and expanding the schools, it's still going to be out of the reach of too many people.
Yeah.
Even if you believe that that's a solution, it's not a solution for most of our students.
It isn't, and it's more again. You're creating a society of haves and have-nots, and that's not what that's not what school systems are supposed to be about. And it's definitely not what public school is supposed to be about. Absolutely, it's about learning, but it's also about and one of the persons who stood up said, this isn't about us to decide, this is about the parents to decide what's best for their kids. Well, I frankly disagree because public school is paid for by public funds, which the decision should be made in the public realm. My children are way out of school, my grandchildren are about to go to school, and I'm happy to pay my taxes to the benefit of public school for every child in West Virginia, because I think that's what sets us apart as a country. I think that's where you go to school. It's not just about learning, it's about learning how to deal with other people. It's about learning that people are different than you, that people have other ideas. It's about working together as a community, and let's face it, Howard, in West Virginia, most of our communities were all around our schools. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think it's been, and again, I think we don't have a charter school in West Virginia yet, so we're going to create more. I mean, I just don't get it.
There's a letter to it's a column or a letter to the editor in today's Gazette, or at least I'm looking at it today. It came out last week. Howard Swint wrote this piece talking about his daughters. He said, it was my hope that after we raised the girls in talking to West Virginia, in your vernal beauty, that someday they might return and raise their family. Their children would play in the creeks of your state forests and be members of the 4-H and Boy Scouts. They would go to mountaineer and thundering herd games, ski your mountains and lakes, and find greater purpose in their lives by making their little bit of the world a better place. But I now know the time has come to put away those dreams of raising the 6th generation of our family in your mountain fastness. They're going to have to go on because of the way this legislature is acting. I mean, it
was heartbreaking.
It is. And nowhere in there does it say, boy, if only we just have reduced income tax.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I think if the question becomes...
Now that's an item I have heard a lot about from my constituents. The constituents in my area, the majority of them, I've heard from a few people who are for the governor's income tax plan to eliminate it eventually. But my other constituents are telling me, we do not want to pay these other taxes for the tax increase because it's not going to benefit us. We're probably going to end up paying more. You have to remember that the vast majority of West Virginians, our median income is $47,000. That's a 2-family median income, right? Those folks are going to end up paying more in this tax.
In sales taxes, right, exactly.
In sales taxes. And I think when we met with the governor at the beginning of session about this, and, he was talking about somebody coming to, in Tennessee, and I said, well, my person lives in Moundsville and Wheeling, and we already have to pay an additional penny because we have 2 home rule cities, and my person can drive across the river in 5 minutes and get their gas or buy their cigarettes or, whatever, buy their groceries, buy their school clothes, and they will do that. Well, he's of the opinion he doesn't believe that. He told me they're not going to drive because the taxes are raised. Well, there again, Howard, he doesn't know the people in our community very well.
No, I was talking to somebody last week, whether it was Bill Ehlenfeld or Brad McElhenney, one of my consultants that we talk about, and I said, The governor must not comprehend. I went to lunch at Melman's yesterday. It's not like we're traveling. It's not like we're traveling to, I don't know, even to Pittsburgh or to Columbus. For God's sake, all of us in this area make that trip across the bridge. Probably all of us, or 90% of us, make that trip across the bridge multiple times a week. It's not a big deal to go to Ohio when you live in Wheeling or Moundsville.
Right. And what they don't understand is that it's truly a regional economy. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not just about West Virginia. So in our part of the state, it really isn't. Plus, it can be in Pennsylvania in 15 minutes from my house. So it's one of those things where they just don't comprehend because they don't live where we do. And again, I just think that they're not taking that into consideration when they're putting forth some of these ideas.
Lisa, do you have any hope of any significant positive legislation coming through in the next 20 days?
I'm hopeful. We have I'm hopeful. I want to remain hopeful. We have a bill that about unemployment compensation that will many states have waived repayment of unemployment compensation, and a lot of folks, I don't know, I've heard from a lot of constituents who are being asked to pay back unemployment compensation money that they already spent to live on. And I think that the governor is thinking about waiving that. We're really hopeful about that. And also that there is a work sharing program that's in that bill as well that allows folks to, maybe you have 5 employees, business is really bad, you only have enough work for them for 3 days a week, Howard, and you really don't want to let anybody go, so you could pay into an unemployment compensation system that during that time you work them 3 days, and the other 2 times they get about a fourth of their unemployment benefits that they were entitled to, depending on how much time people aren't working. It's a program that's been a lot of businesses have wanted in West Virginia, and we got that passed out of the Judiciary Committee on Friday. I think it's a good bill, and I think it would help a lot of people, including small businesses. Because, then if you let a really good worker go and they go and find another job, it's going to harm your business. So it's a way it's a win-win for the business and the employees.
Well, you stay hopeful, Lisa. I'm not so hopeful.
Thank you.
But
I know. I really try because you can't let them get you down. I feel better after being home with my family and my dogs for the weekend. So.
I understand that. Hey, I appreciate your time with us this morning, and I thank you for the effort that you give, and I always enjoy talking to you. And we'll do it again soon. Don't get frustrated. Just keep on fighting the fight.
Thanks, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, talk to you soon. Lisa Zukoff checking in from Charleston. She is a West Virginia delegate from Marshall County. She said last week was among the most frustrating weeks of her public service career. Well, Brad McElhenney will be in the next segment to talk to us about what he's learned about Brandon Steele, the delegate that has contracted COVID, and how, if at all, this may impact the remaining days of the 60-day legislative session. So we'll get into that with Brad coming up. I have Ben Seidler coming in from Wheeling Council to talk to us about the Fairmont State, pardon me, I don't know why I said that, the Bluefield State debacle. We'll get into that and much more here on the Watchdog Morning Show, 8:35, 25 till the hour.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time for...
Sorry, Biff, I just couldn't find a convenient place to take a break with her. I'll be back in a minute. I'm back, Biff. If we have to take another break, I will. I left that last one. I did get that last one in, so let me know.
Basketball team as the Mountaineers fall in the second round of the NCAA tournament to the Orange of Syracuse by a final score of 75-72. It is a game that lasts for 40 minutes, but Syracuse's red-hot start set the entire tempo of the game as the Orange built as much as a 14-point lead in the opening half before going into the locker room at halftime with a 6-point advantage. Syracuse then took its lead out to double figures once again, leading by as many as 11 points before West Virginia battled back. In fact, the Mountaineers took the lead with just over 9 minutes to go, 53-52. That is when Buddy Boeheim took over. The son of the Syracuse head coach got blistering hot, finishing the game with 25 points, 22 of those coming in the second half, and he finished the game with 6 3-pointers. Overall, West Virginia simply did not shoot the ball well enough against Syracuse's vaunted zone defense. The Mountaineers end the game shooting just 37% from the field, making 26 of 70 attempts. And on the other side, West Virginia's defense, which has been a weakness throughout the course of the season, allowed Syracuse to make 52% of its shots, and that includes 14 made 3-pointers. The Orange win and go to the Sweet 16, 75-72. WVU ends its season at 19-10. Next season, many of these Mountaineers are scheduled to return, including Sean McNeil, who leads the Mountaineers in this game with 23 points, including 7 3-point shots. 75-72, the final score, and that is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield, IMG College.
Wake up to the Ohio Valley's favorite morning show, the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe. Weekday morning, 7 to 10 a.m. Only on the Watchdog.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so much uncertainty surrounding you, there is one auto dealership that you can be certain about, and that's Doan Ford. You can be certain that you always get a great deal and the best service afterwards. Being in business for over 50 years has given Doan Ford the reputation of being a strong, reliable dealership. Be certain. Choose Doan Ford. Online at DoanFord.com.
I'm not buying till I check Doan Ford.
In a hurry and need to see a doctor? The Woodsdale Health Center and Walk-In Clinic is located across from Little Caesars on National Road. Open 7 to 7 Monday through Friday. Patients can receive primary care, treatment of minor illnesses and injuries, wellness visits and physicals. There's also a lab draw station open from 8 to noon weekdays. A division of Wheeling Hospital, the Woodsdale Health Center is led by family physician Dr. Michael Wilson. Call 304-234-1971. They'll take good care of you.
This is Wheeling Fire Chief Larry Helms, reminding everyone about the seriousness of this COVID-19 in our region during these colder weather months. This virus is spreading rapidly and could put a strain on our hospitals and emergency services. I am asking everyone to please wear a mask. It's important to make sure your mask covers your nose and your mouth at all times. Wearing a mask is one of the only defensive tactics we have to slow this virus down. Remember, wear a mask, stay apart, and wash your hands.
When winter weather strikes the Ohio Valley, you can trust the Storm Tracker 7 weather team to help you plan your day. Our experienced meteorologists stay connected with you on TV, online, and on social. Get your weather information straight from a local source. We'll help you be prepared and make sure you'll never be surprised.
And we do expect dry conditions overnight, tonight, and all day tomorrow.
Meteorologist Dr. Dave Walker, Aaron Mylar, and me, Zach Petty, the Storm Tracker 7 weather team, working for you.
For all of your IT needs, visit omniperforms.com.
Okie dokie. Thank you.
Highlands is
Baker, are you getting them all in here? Okay.
off appetizers, $3 off domestic drafts and house wine specials. Quaker Steak and Lube voted Best Wings USA. Quaker Steak and Lube at the Highlands with another steal of a deal. Get a steak burger and fries all day Monday for only $8.99. It's also Military Mondays. The Lube will take 25% off for all veterans, active duty military, and first responders. Quaker Steak and Lube voted Best Wings USA.
There are times when you shouldn't ignore what your body is telling you, and you need to seek medical care. At Wheeling Hospital, we want you to know that we are taking every precaution to make your visit as safe as possible. We're screening visitors using the latest infection control technologies, offering telehealth for physician visits, and more. This is true throughout our campus, in our ER Trauma Center, our physician offices, surgical center, and on our patient floors. The pandemic isn't over, but be assured that at Wheeling Hospital, we are here when you need us.
Yorkville. The Watchdog is protecting your yard. Join Howard Monroe, Hoppy Kercheval, Bill DeFabio, and Big Rick for the best live and local talk in the Upper Ohio Valley and beyond. Yorkville trusts the Watchdog.
Watch out! He could climb on his soapbox at any time. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
The war of words involving the Wheeling Council and local college and university presidents continued over the weekend. Mayor Elliott on this show over a week ago had defended the city's position in conjunction with this memorandum of understanding with Bluefield State College. The vice mayor and Jerry Sklavonakis added their dissatisfaction with Dr. Mosser and others on the Your Wheeling show here on the Watchdog last week. City Manager Bob Herron in the morning paper today disputes a claim that the city is the one that approached Bluefield State. Mosser said that there were minutes of a meeting from Bluefield State College's faculty senate that showed that the city manager had approached the city. Bob Herron said they approached us. I've made it very clear, continue to make it crystal clear. I did not initially contact or reach out to BSC. Herron said that initially the proposal came from Jeff Knierim, local real estate guy, one-time vice president at West Liberty under President Capehart. And Jeff had acted as, and a friend of mine, had acted as a sort of a middleman to bring the idea to the city. But this Bob Herron adamantly says, we didn't reach out to them, no matter what you have to say. Friday, the city manager, the mayor, and the vice mayor repeated their dispute with Mr. Mosser, Dr. Mosser, in a lengthy statement that they issued on city letterhead. Specifically, the allegations made against city officials referenced herein are unequivocally true. The memorandum of understanding does not stipulate any of the terms suggested by Dr. Mosser. A couple council members I had not heard from, so I reached out to them over the weekend. Rosemary Ketchum sent me a note back saying, Howard, I believe we have a dual responsibility to fill the space at OVMC, so we no longer have a behemoth structure sitting empty in the middle of Center Wheeling, but we also have a responsibility to understand and work with the current landscape of educational opportunities so we can build a downtown that best serves our community. I, said Rosemary Ketchum, am confident that our full council is working to strike that balance. And Second Ward Councilman Ben Seidler said, I think it was incredibly inappropriate, referring to Dr. Mosser's comments, I think it was incredibly inappropriate with no basis whatsoever. Yes, there are things I would have handled differently in hindsight, but the insinuation that anything here was below the line was incredibly offensive. Seidler will join me coming up next hour to talk a little bit more about that as that war of words continues. Now, down in Charleston, an interesting development came out yesterday, and Brad McElhenney, I think, was first to report it via the infamous Brad McElhenney Twitter account. The one member of the House of Delegates come down with COVID. Brad's here to help us take a look at that and figure out what's going to happen next. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning. Poor you if you were looking at your Twitter on a beautiful Sunday morning, but I was active on it because there was some Sunday morning breaking news. The first lawmaker that we know of has confirmed a case of COVID, and that's important. And certainly, whatever you think of his politics, I want to wish Delegate Brandon Steele, who is the House Government Organization Committee chairman, want to wish him well. I hope he has a speedy recovery. He's quarantining at home with his family. Understand that they may have some concern too. So just absolutely want to wish him a speedy recovery. But in the public realm, this potentially affects this last third of the legislative session. We're beginning day 41 today, and on Friday, which was day 38, Delegate Steele played a major role in the action. A long floor session, a 2-hour debate about a controversy in its own right, this monuments bill, and Delegate Steele shepherded that bill through committee and had some pretty heated comments about it. Delegates from either party can lower their masks when they speak on the floor to try to provide some clarity. Delegate Steele was emotional, talked for a while, did lower that mask, and now we know likely he already had COVID-19 in that moment. So there are precautions. The legislature is not shutting down, but there are a couple of legislators who have announced already, because of their proximity to Delegate Steele, they're going to stay home for a bit. Delegate Steele himself is staying home for at least a week. The vice chairman of the Government Organization Committee will be handling it this week. Some staff that's usually with the Government Organization Committee also staying home or may be able to participate by way of live streaming if they've got to present a bill in committee or something. It sounds like they may shift some other staff into that committee to try to make up for the staff that's got to stay home. There's going to be an increased presence of COVID-19 testing at the Capitol, starting, my understanding is starting today. Mm-hmm. So all these things are kind of in the air, affecting the legislative session here as we hit this home stretch. And what we don't know is Delegate Steele the only one? Just don't know that yet. So a lot of
Delegate Steele, Brad, there are some members of the House who have been sort of intentionally violating the face mask guidelines. I think of Marty Gerhardt, among others. Was Steele pretty good about wearing his mask, or was he among those who chose to flaunt the rules? And I have no idea, so I'm curious.
In floor sessions, I always saw him with a mask and not like one of those mesh or cutout masks. I mean, it was legit, like you and I would wear. And we've got a picture here at the Metro News site where he's talking to the speaker, and they've both got real everyday masks on. My observation about it has been that if you have been in House leadership, the expectation has been you're going to take it seriously and you're going to do it. And it's been sort of some members of the rank and file who have felt they've had the latitude to skirt that rule. But Steele, I have seen him on the floor wearing it. I will say that delegates are much looser about it, kind of back in their office areas and those hallways around their offices. And they regard that kind of as their realm, and I think the natural movement of things is when you get relaxed and you kind of feel like it's your area, maybe you begin to forget a little bit, and so I think it's possible he was among those who maybe not in the floor session was dropping that mask a little bit, but on the floor I saw him adhering.
This is not meant to be critical because I think this is just human nature. Have the attention to the COVID protocols on the floor and elsewhere in the Capitol kind of over the course of the session, have they been paid less attention to? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure the first couple of days, like boom, 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 we're going to do this, but then after a while, it just becomes more familiar. And I don't know if that's the case, but I just wonder.
My observation is that would be true. And so I was there a couple of days last week, and for the most part, people were adhering to the rule in the floor session. But as I said, if you're addressing your fellow delegates, and are going to be speaking for a little while, so there was dropping of the mask for that purpose with the intent of communication. But out and around the Capitol, particularly in that corridor with the offices, I would see people walking around with masks below their chin or no mask at all, and sometimes that would extend to the common areas. You don't say the rotunda anymore because it's still blocked off, but the common areas outside the chamber, people would sometimes be walking around without a mask. And I think the human nature was just that they'd gotten so far, and the worry was, well, are we going to get shut down right away? And that was 5 weeks ago. And so far, so good until now. And it really did feel like the human nature of it had gotten far more relaxed.
So we'll have to kind of wait and see. A lot of stuff, I guess, is up in the air. If more people come down with COVID, and I have no reason to assume that would happen, but if more people would, there may have to be some additional adaptations to it. But that was part of Speaker Hanshaw's game plan in the beginning, was in the event we have a COVID outbreak, want to get as much done as we can early on. That's why that's part of the reason why we had the very fast moving early part of this session.
Yeah, and I got Steele on the phone yesterday, and that's one thing that he mentioned was he really credited leadership and the rules that were in place. And I'm going to make a distinction between the process and the rules in place and individuals' adherence to those rules. But there were pretty good rules in place. Clean up between meetings. They were only having meetings in the biggest rooms available. There were mask policies, not adhered to by everybody, but those rules got them 5 weeks into the session, which was a little better than you saw in some other states. But now you do have this emerging situation. But so far so good. And the House really did put its GOP caucus priorities right up front. I mean, it was a busy beginning of the session, and now you're getting some other kinds of bills now that are just a bit different.
Are there any key pieces of legislation you can think of that really need to get run through? I'm not talking about the budget, which we can chat about in a second, but I guess the monument bill passed the House, has to go to the Senate. I don't think that'll take a lot of time over there. I don't know. The income tax bill is sitting around languishing right now. I don't know. That's going to require a lot of attention. So if COVID gets in the way, that may bring an end to that. I'm just guessing. Are there other bills that require attention that are going to need to be speeded up in case there's a COVID concern?
Well, both houses began considering resolutions about property taxes last week. That would give the legislature the flexibility to potentially alter property taxes in some way, and right now they don't have that because the Constitution defines them. So there is interest in doing that on both sides, and they just began considering these things just last week. Another thing that comes to mind for me is that the House pretty early on introduced and passed 2 bills dealing with the governor's emergency powers and his handling of federal relief money, and that has not been taken up at all by the Senate. And sometimes you get that. I mean, each chamber deals with its own priority bills early on, and then kind of hangs on to the other chambers. But get to it when you have to. But the Senate has not dealt with those bills yet, and if there were any disruption to the legislative session, they would throw that kind of thing potentially into doubt.
Yeah, I want to make clear that I'm not suggesting that the session will be disrupted by COVID, but were it to be, the only one thing they absolutely have to do is the state budget, right?
Yes, they are constitutionally obligated to deal with the budget, and I'm trying to think if there's any bill this year that has a real groundswell of public support that people would really want to make sure it's dealt with. I'm trying not to judge, but nothing springs to mind. Like last year, there was a foster care reform bill that I think all sides bought into and thought it was really important, given the 7,000 kids in West Virginia's foster care system. People thought, well, we really need to deal with that. And I am broadband. Broadband is one that comes to mind, and there was a pretty broad-ranging broadband bill in the House that passed, and I don't think the Senate has taken that up yet. So that will be one where you think, boy, we came into this thinking we're going to deal with broadband, and it would be a shame to leave that one lying on the table.
Well, let's hope that the Delegate Steele, I certainly concur with you, regardless of party affiliation or politics at all, certainly hope he recovers quickly and without a huge amount of problems. He has COVID, and also did I see where he's got pneumonia as well?
He told me that he's got pneumonia in one lung, and so, yeah, that would indicate that it's a fairly serious case. But he said he didn't feel bad at the time, but left open that he, COVID is progressive, and he may begin to feel worse than he was at the moment he spoke to me.
Well, I certainly wish him well, and then I hope that the whole thing gets contained and that the session can move forward. But I know that you will stay on top of that and will let us know on Metro News and certainly via the infamous Brad McElhaney Twitter feed. So that's where I get all my news of the day anymore, is from the Twitter feed.
I'm sorry.
And occasionally some of your very clever GIFs as well. I like those too. So, all right, Brad, I got to run. Good talking to you. Thank you for bringing us up to speed on this. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Howard.
9 o'clock, Watchdog Morning Show. We'll talk about the city of Wheeling coming up next hour after ABC, already in progress, covers the world.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Chief Medical Correspondent Dr.